EGM Network.
Honestly, without Treasure Coast Community Health, I think we'd be a much poorer community in terms of our health. We're always striving to fill the gap for everyone in the community, rich or poor.
And good afternoon. Welcome to Community Conversations. I'm so glad to be here again this week. Every week is a treat of meeting guests that some I know, some I'm just getting to know, but always a great representation of the wonderful community that we live in. So today I'm pleased to have Sara Wilson, who's the executive director. It's going to be a long half hour. Maybe I'll get better. Sara, you are from the Laura Riding Jackson
Foundation.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes, that's usually the tongue twister for people. So,
well, I've been in town for a long while. As a matter of fact, we were just saying, initially, the Laura Jackson Riding House was not out at the Indian River State campus.
That's right. It's been there since 2019. But previous to that, it has moved twice from its original location.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
The original location was in Wabasso, and it was there from around 1910. We're not completely sure when it was built, until 1992, when the foundation was formed after Laura's death. And we originally moved it to the grounds of the Environmental Learning Center, where it was for a couple decades. But then they were expanding. They had some plans, and so we moved it again to the Vero Beach campus of Indian River State College, and we are hoping it never has to move again.
Well, tell us about Laura, because obviously it's one heck of a legacy if you leave a house that endures 3 moves over time. She must have been a pretty important gal.
She was, and she was not a Florida native, but she did live here for over 50 years. She was born in New York City in 1901. And attended Cornell University, which was not common for women at that time. She ended up moving to Europe. As some people may know, a lot of artists and poets, writers spent the 1920s and 30s in Europe. It was kind of the place to be, and Laura was among them. And then when World War II was on the horizon, she came back to the United States and married, and it happened that Schuyler Jackson, who she married, owned a piece of property in Wabasso, and that is where they decided to settle. And then she lived there for the next 50 years of her life. She and Schuyler lived together there. He died in 1968, and she in 1991. So
this is still a very primitive home, those of you that haven't seen it.
Yes. And that actually is a gift that Laura left us. She was sort of ahead of her time in many ways, one of which what we now sort of call minimalist living, or that's just the way that she preferred to live. And so when they moved in the house during World War II, part of it was because it was just difficult to get things in the war. So they couldn't electrify the house, for example, and then they just never did. So if you get used to it, why change, right? The house was never insulated. A lot of houses that were built in the early 20th century here in Florida eventually had drywall and linoleum and so on, and they just never did that to their house. So the gift is that the house, even if Laura never lived in it, just the way that she left it, left us a historic example of a house that we otherwise wouldn't be able to see. People wouldn't know what it was like to live in a house like that.
And actually, although we talk about them not coming back until almost when World War II was starting, or her coming back, when you walk into the house, you really get more of an image of the 1930s.
You do, yes. I mean, the house had been standing on the property before they moved into it. We're not entirely sure of who had lived there previously, but we do know from letters that Laura wrote that it was pretty dilapidated when they moved in. So they had to do a bunch of updating before they moved in. But even still, it's very much of an era of the 1920s and 30s.
Yeah. It definitely is.
Yeah.
So since you've moved it, are you seeing a lot of people coming there to see it on campus?
Oh, yes. We wish we could have it open more often. The reason that we can't is because we rely on volunteers. So if anyone listening is interested in historic homes and wants to be a docent, they should contact me.
Excellent.
But and another reason is because we don't have it open during hurricane season. Partly so that we can protect it. We just button it up. But also because it's extremely hot in there in the middle of the summer. So it's difficult to tour.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that means that we have it open the second Sunday of each month from November through April.
Okay.
And every Tuesday afternoon. And so you really have, 6 months out of the year to see it, and only on a few days a week.
And so those of you that are wintering with us, that would be a great opportunity, I think, to give back a little bit.
Absolutely.
And meet some new people.
People can come anytime. Oh, yes, to volunteer. That would be wonderful. But if you want to just come tour the house, you can come anytime between the hours of 1 and 5. Sometimes people think they have to make a reservation. You don't. You just show up. There are docents there. We do also make reservations for groups, though. So we sometimes, you have a social club or a community club. If you want to come out and schedule a time with us, then we arrange a docent to take the group through the house.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So what other claim to fame might Laura have given us?
Yes, I mean, she actually had quite a bit of a claim to fame that really had nothing to do with her house. I always say when I'm doing tours of the house that the house would be interesting even if she never lived in it, but is even more interesting because she did. She was a writer. She was primarily known for poetry, but she wrote in many genres. She wrote nonfiction. She wrote a novel. She wrote literary criticism, all kinds of things, but primarily a poet. And was known in the 1920s and especially the 1930s as one of the foremost American poets.
That is amazing. Right here in our little burg of Wabasso.
That's right.
So,
and so now, that we preserve her house for the historical value of the house, but in her other legacy that we preserve is the love of writing. And so that is why we have kind of a dual mission where we also support writing programs here in the county. So
when you talk about writing programs, are you talking about like teens or adults or both?
And now we even have stuff for younger kids. So I kind of jokingly say now we have ages 3 to 83 and beyond participating in writing with us. It started for adults and then sort of backtracked to teens. We've been doing teen writing workshops for 25 years.
Wow.
Then we started a middle school camp about 7 or 8 years ago. Now we have a middle school writing group as well. And just this past year, we started programs for younger kids out at the house. So on Sundays when the house is open, we have kids programs so they can do writing outside with us.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So is it creative writing or more theory-based in terms of, a plot and, all the elements?
Yeah, I mean, it's any kind of writing that people wish to do. I mean, we definitely focus more on creative writing. Some people who write with us are writing what we call creative nonfiction. So it's nonfiction. It's based on research. But if you think of a really great biography that you've read or something like that, you still have to tell a story, right? There's a narrative arc to it.
Right.
And so I guess what we don't do is just sort of basic reporting or research papers. Those are the two things we don't do. But most of our writers who are creative writers,
schools do that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that is one of the reasons why we do that, especially for the kids, is that they don't have as much of an opportunity to do creative writing in school, and so we want to make sure they have that opportunity. So we have everything from people who are writing poetry to memoir to science fiction, family history, novels, you name it. Yeah.
And who guides that process? If someone were to come, because I've seen you had or have a little spot there on 14th Avenue.
That's right. We have our writing center on 14th Avenue, which is our administrative office, but it's also a nice big open space for our writing groups. And there are almost 100 people in this community who are members of our writing groups.
Wow.
Who, people probably didn't know there are quite so many people walking around the side, passing them on the sidewalks who are writers. And people come in, since that's the space I work in, people just walk in a couple times a week and say, I'm a writer, or I'm interested in being a writer. So there's a lot of interest in the community in it. But the groups are run by volunteer facilitators who keep the schedule and, make sure everyone is staying on track with their writing and has an opportunity to share their writing. Because that's really the value of it, is to get feedback from other writers.
Absolutely.
So they share their writing. They sometimes do readings, and they get feedback from other people about how to improve their writing. And they do the same for the other people in their group.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So is it like retired English teachers that are
There are,
your
in fact,
guides?
some retired English teachers and professors, but there's really every profession you can think of. I mean, we have phlebotomists, we have bankers, we have baristas, we have people from every walk of life.
That is pretty cool. I had no idea.
Yep.
Well, we're going to have to take a short break for a word from our sponsors, and we'll come back and talk about more of those interesting people.
Okay.
Treasure Coast Community Health in-house pharmacies have the lowest prices in Indian River County, even lower than big box pharmacies. Taking your medication as prescribed leads to better health. Affordable medicine makes it easier. Treasure Coast Community Health patients can pick up medicine as they leave the office or use free delivery and mail order services. Pharmacists are always available to answer questions. Switch to TCCH pharmacies. Save money, stay healthy. 772-257-8224 and ask about our price match.
Create your island paradise at Sunshine Furniture during our winter sale event. Save 50% on all Tommy Bahama and Lexington, including the newest collection, Key Biscayne. Living room, dining room, occasional chairs, office, and media furniture with sophisticated design and a mix of coastal and Caribbean style. All Tommy Bahama and Lexington offer everything you need for your Florida living. We have the largest selection of in-stock coastal furniture from Four Seasons, Capri, Universal, Riverside, Hooker, Sea Winds, Barca Lounger, Best, and lots more. At Sunshine Furniture, we're the outdoor furniture experts specializing in patio sets that withstand the Florida elements, and we have a gallery of Berlin Garden and Bollywood. Come in now for the best prices of the year. Sunshine Furniture, $12.95 US 1 in Vero Beach. Don't miss the 50% off winter sale on Tommy Bahama and Lexington going on now. Visit our website at sunshinefurniturecasual.com and visit our outlet store directly across the street.
It'll be the bee's knees. The Roaring Twenties Downtown Friday, presented by GHO Homes. Bring your fedoras, flappers, and feathers for this free street party in Vero Beach with live music by the New Deco, plus kid games, beer, and food trucks. It'll be the Cat's Pajamas. Admission is free, see? Presented by GHO Homes and Millennium Cremation Service. The Roaring Twenties Downtown Friday and Main Street Vero Beach event. Friday, February 28th at 6 p.m. in downtown Vero Beach.
And welcome back to Community Conversations. If you're just joining, my name is Vicki Soule. I'm the CEO of Treasure Coast Community Health, and we are one of the most wonderful organizations in my mind for providing health care for our entire community. Primary care, we collaborate with a lot of different organizations to get you the care that you need, but we kind of believe in the convenience model, putting as many medical, dental, behavioral health, pharmacy, all those associated services in one building wherever possible, so that you don't have to take a lot of time off work, so that you don't have to repeat the same thing over and over again at different offices. Our electronic health record is now Epic, which gives you access to my chart as well as my chart throughout the country, wherever you might stop, whether it's hospital or health centers or private practice physicians. And so we encourage you to come to us if you are between providers or perhaps just new to the community. We have all board certified individuals, top-notch care. And so having used it myself for many, many years, I can tell you, in my mind, there is no better. I'm very proud of our staff. And if you would like to make an appointment, call 257-8224, and they'll be happy to help you at one of our 8 different convenient locations. One of the joys that I have, though, is to be able to personally come here every week to the studio and talk with different people around our community about the wonderful things that they're doing. Because I moved here 25 plus years ago and fall in love with it every day that I walk out of my door. And today we have Sara Wilson with us, who is from the Laura Riding Jackson Foundation. And during the break, I started to ask her, so how did you get involved? And I said, wait a minute. I want to, this is really interesting. Match made in heaven.
Yes, so the organization has a dual mission of history and writing, and it happens that I have a graduate degree in American history, and I worked as a freelance writer. Then I worked for many years in nonprofit management, and I was not a resident of Vero, but I saw this job come open, and I thought it's kind of made for me.
Yeah. So how long have you been doing this?
I have been in my position for 2.5 years. I just moved to Vero last year.
Congrats.
So I was commuting from West Palm for a while, so that was tough. But been in Florida for about 9 years, so
Okay.
not native, but I'm starting to feel like a Floridian.
Yeah, it gets that way,
Yeah.
especially come hurricane season.
Yes.
It's like, don't worry about it.
Yep, I got
been
it.
there, done this. I got it. So you said that during hurricane season, so June to November, you button up the house, her house out on the campus.
Yes. I mean, that house has survived many, many hurricanes, and, we don't quite know what kind of damage it might have taken over the years before we became the stewards of it, but we try to keep it as safe as possible because we would like it to last for another many hundred years.
Well, I have to say, I went through it twice, not recently, but it's a memory maker, and there are pieces of it that if you're older than 45, you can identify with out of your grandparents' home.
In fact, a lot of people, when you're giving a tour there, will say, this reminds me of my grandmother's cabin or my grandmother's home, or
the women getting together to do the canning. I think you've still got a couple of those.
Yes,
things
a lot of
there.
the items in the house remind people of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So thanks for those memories, because as we go into a very fast-paced adult life, sometimes those get pushed aside, and it's nice to be able to take a breath and say how grateful we are for our family, how we grew up, the memories that were created.
And a sort of quieter, slower paced time of life, right? We have a garden behind the house now that it's on the campus.
Oh.
It's about 1 acre, and it does not represent how the surroundings of Laura's house would have been. It's sort of a more manicured garden than she would have had. But it was important to us to have it because it's a very peaceful and restful place for people when they visit the house. It's available to people. So we have students from the campus who we find walking through there. People come out of the Brackett Library and sit and read a book. And so we're happy to provide that environment.
And again, if people have just joined us, the house is open outside of hurricane season.
Right, from November through April, second Sunday of every month from 1 to 5, and every Tuesday from 1 to 5.
I remembered the Tuesdays.
Yeah. And then available for reservations for big groups if people want to reserve.
So some of the things that we've talked about have rotated around more of her academic life, being an early grad from a university in the early 1920s.
Right.
So you continue helping people with writing skills, particularly creative writing. And you have volunteers that help with that.
We do, yeah.
Okay.
We have volunteers who are part of our writing program. We have volunteers in our garden, and we have volunteers in the house.
Aha,
Yes.
Lots of opportunities.
Yes, lots.
Okay, so what's your website in case somebody wants to learn a little bit more and or contact you?
You can type the entire LauraWritingJackson.org, or if you can remember her initials, you can type LRJF.org.
Okay. And so one of the things that we talked about was the creative writing, and that you have groups actually, so that it's not just about writing, but it's about sharing and learning more from other writers. Yes. So are all of the groups here in Vero?
Mostly. There is a group that meets at the North County Library in Sebastian, and the rest of the groups meet in our writing center, which is downtown Vero. Sometimes they meet under the pole barn on the campus where the house is when the weather's nice.
Ah, that sounds intriguing. So again, do they need to register for that? Or does the website have the dates and times where they can just show up?
No, we prefer that people don't just show up. It does describe the groups and sort of when they meet, but we're happy to have people sort of let us know what group they want to visit and see if it's a nice fit for them. And then if it works, they can sign up.
So is there anything else that you'd like to have the listening public know more about?
Sure. I mean, in addition to our groups, we have workshops. So the groups are kind of more peer support and ongoing, where the workshops are more instructional and led by an expert in a particular field of writing. So we have those for both teens and adults. And for example, we have one coming up this Saturday, which is the theme is on pirates of all things. So it's sort of that creative nonfiction I was telling you about earlier in the show. The author has written many books on the subject. He's an expert, and he is going to be talking with anyone who registers about the field, but also specifically about his experience as a writer and how to become successful as he has in writing nonfiction, and with a particular focus on his online presence. So if people are interested in combining writing for a website or a blog with also
Very
writing for
nice.
books, they can learn that this Saturday.
Yeah, because that is something that you're not learning in your English class.
No, you're not. No. And then there's one on screenwriting in March. That's also for adults. And then for the teens, we're really excited to have the Poet Laureate of Orlando, Sean Welcome, visiting us in April for National Poetry Month to do a spoken word poetry event for teens.
And do you find that the teens hesitate with writing long pieces as opposed to shorter pieces like poetry?
Well, no. There's only a couple of hours for a workshop, so we don't quite know what they do after that. But I will tell you, just from stories that I've heard from the teens that we work with, even some of our middle schoolers who come to our summer camp are writing novels.
Really?
Yes, we have 11 and 12-year-olds in this community who are writing novels.
Wow.
We have our teens talk about the writing that they're doing. And we have a Teen Fellow Award where you can attend a certain number of our workshops and then you have to submit a piece of writing. And sometimes the piece of writing that we get is chapter 17 of my novel. And yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it's impressive.
That is impressive and much needed because, we hear all about the technology and how we're losing so many different skills. Kids aren't being taught how to write cursive. And, for somebody that's of my generation, it's a little frightening to think what the future might be. But these workshops and the creative writing opportunities are encouraging.
We need to help create the next generation of writers, or else we won't have novels and poetry to read in 10, 20, 30 years.
So are you saying that some of these children have been really encouraged by their family to do this?
Well, I think, and by themselves. I mean, we have. I just want people to know that there is incredible talent of all ages in this community when it comes to writing, and I am sure that someone is going to read the back flap of a book in 10 years, and it's going to say, "Growing up in Vero Beach, Florida."
Yeah. Well, that would be awesome, wouldn't it? I think the last one that really got associated remarkably with being associated with our coast here is Stuart Woods. And I think everybody is aware of that.
Right.
I understand he's passed and he was a character.
Yeah.
So it's time to refresh the pool of writers, without a doubt.
Right. And, you asked me about events. We have a unique event that I don't know if you've ever attended, but this is our 14th year for our annual Poetry and Barbecue, which just doesn't go together. Yes. So people often kind of, look puzzled when we say that's the event, but, and I did too, my first year, but it really works. And you may think you're not someone who goes to poetry readings, but, you will enjoy the poetry and then you'll enjoy the live music and the barbecue. So that is on April 5th this year, and we hope people will come out.
So is that a fundraiser for you?
It is a fundraiser. Yep. So there's raffles and
okay, and online tickets, I presume.
Yes, on the website. Yep.
Okay. And is the cost affordable for a family?
It's $45, but you get dinner and entertainment and a whole afternoon of poetry.
That's pretty cool, without a doubt. Thank you so much for being here today. I can't tell you how exciting it is to hear about some of these little pockets of information that really should be celebrated in our community.
Thank you for having me, and I hope that maybe there will be one or two writers out there who will join us and be in a new pocket of
would be nice
creativity.
Yeah. Do they get to publish these someplace? I'm thinking the newspapers have kind of gone away, and while there is technology, where can they be published? Where can we read these things?
Well, we actually have a press. We don't put out many books, but we're actually putting out a poetry book next month. Our middle school campers are published in a book every year. And then, of course, our writers are encouraged to either self-publish or try to find an agent and publish themselves. Yeah.
Yes.
So many of them are published.
Wow. So keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all for being here with us today. Next week, I'll have another infamous celebrity. I make all of our guests celebrities because I celebrate the work that they do by being here. So have a great afternoon, and we'll see you next week.